the first Congregational Church in Natick. The Elliott Church. This church is the fifth of the Elliott churches. The others were either destroyed or torn down due to rot. The first church was built in 1651. The Indian burying ground on Pond Street. This is all that remains of the first Congregational Church's 100 acres, given to them for the support of preaching by an act of the legislature on June 22, 1812. This spot has always been kept open and cared for by the church, being made sacred as the last resting place of a race that is now gone. The Tabernacle. The Congregationalists built this building on the town land for a temporary place of worship after the fire of 1874 destroyed all halls and places of worship except the Catholic and Baptist churches. The Second Congregational Church. After the removal of the old church building to the corner of Main and West Central Streets, the second church was built in 1835 on the site of the old one and at a cost of $8,000. The village being in a prosperous condition and the congregation growing rapidly, it soon outgrew this building and it was sold to the Universalist Society, who moved it across the street. They later sold it to the Roman Catholic Church. The passing of the Second Congregationalist Church. This picture is a front view of the second church in process of being dismantled before its removal to a site across the street. Another view of the rear of the church in the process of dismantling. The Fourth Congregational Church. Shortly after the Great Fire of 1874, the Congregationalists voted on March 24, 1874, to build a new church of brick to accommodate 750 people. The cost not to exceed $50,000. The cornerstone was laid on May 29, 1876. The First Baptist Church in 1889. The interior of the Baptist Church in 1889. The Baptist Church remodeled. In 1852, land was purchased on the east side of South Main Street, just 2 building lots south from the Common, and this building was built at a cost of $5,000. The house was dedicated January 20, 1853. In 1866, it was thought advisable to seek a new location, and the present site was secured and the old church moved there. In October of 1912, the steeple was removed and the present dome was built. The First Methodist Church. The First Methodist Church in this region was organized with 7 members in 1792 in Needham, on the borders of Natick and Weston, where they built their first meeting house in 1799. This meeting house was built in the center of town at the corner of Main and Summer Streets. This building was consumed in the fire of 1874. Second Methodist Church. In 1870, the Methodist Church began to consider building a new church on a site they procured on East Central and Clarendon Streets. They began construction in 1873. The fire of 1874 deprived them of their former church building, and they hastened to complete this church in 1874. It cost $15,000. The Catholic Church and Parish House. These buildings form a very pleasing group on the north side of East Central Street. The church was built in 1892 and the house in 1900. The interior of the Catholic Church. This is a view looking into the choir loft of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church in South Natick. The Episcopal Church. St. Paul's Episcopal Church of Natick was organized in 1871. Their services were held in Union Hall until the fire of 1874, when the hall was destroyed. A site on Wilson Street was obtained, and this chapel was built in 1874 and opened for services in February 1875. The Unity Church. This church, costing $14,000, was dedicated on February 1st, 1903. After a fire destroyed it in the 1970s, it was replaced with a steel and cement block structure. The church later merged with the Wellesley Church and sold their new building to investors for office space. The new community chapel in West Natick in 1920. The Del Park Cemetery. The Del Park Cemetery was consecrated on July 12, 1849. Bodies were removed from the cemetery in the center of town, between South Avenue, Main, and Washington Streets. Some were also taken from a private cemetery where the Oddfellows block is located. This is a view of the entrance to the new Del Park Cemetery.